How's everybody doing today? JR10 Desert Gold here on another balmy Friday afternoon. Cooled down a little bit. It's currently only 112, but we're looking at somewhere around 25% relative humidity. So you guys back east probably call that dry heat. I just call it hot. Today got a video. I can't promise it'll be short because there's a lot going on with it, so I'm going to do my best. Basically, I had done a preliminary video on my survival slash Ifak slash solar generator. I ran into a couple of setbacks, and I finally have it all set up and finished, ready to put in the truck, carry with. Just a quick review. Basically what I did was I got a standard plastic Plano, I think it's by Plano, I'm pretty sure it is, ammo case, and cut out a window to mount the 16,000 lumen LED floodlight. Added the switches for power and the light. It is a solar recharging system. So we have the 25 watt solar panel that plugs in. I'm going to show you some of that in a little bit. There's a 170 watt lithium iron polymer battery bank in this system, which provides, it's a, you could, if it were a lead acid battery, you could say it's similar to a deep cycle. It's a high capacity system on those cells, so they put out a lot of power. Some people would probably wonder why I made such a big Ifak kit. Basically, it's more than just an Ifak. It's also, like I said, a survival environment or kit, and it's also a solar generator so that you have power with you whenever you need it. The advantages to something like this are, you know, probably don't pop up in your mind immediately, but if you stop and think about it, there is some benefits to this. Let's say you're the first one to arrive on a trauma situation, and you're the only one there that's capable of providing assistance, and it's dark or limited light available. You have two options. One, you can try to service the patient with a flashlight or some other light source while trying to render first aid to this individual. That could be somewhat taxing, to say the least. Some of these lights that are the high-powered lights that are available now are small, and you can actually hold them in your mouth and shine it on the patient as you're working on them. But that also inhibits the ability for you to communicate with the patient and let them know that, you know, you can comfort them and say, hey, you're doing okay, or you need them to do something like roll to the left or help you manipulate them in some way. And if you got a flashlight in your mouth, that's going to be an issue. So what I did was I found a source for these. They're basically LED floods. You could use these in your backyard as a floodlight with the amount of light output that this little panel generates. You simply turn on the power, the master switch is on, and I'm probably going to wash everything out right now, but I mean, you could set this in the proximity of the patient and have full illumination of the patient, hands-free. You're capable to communicate with the patient without something in your mouth like a flashlight, and you can proceed with taking care of the patient more comfortably and accurately. So let's get into some of the things that are in this and why it is so large. This thing is, I intended it to be a more of a trauma-oriented Ifak, so there's going to be some things in here that you might not want or are not comfortable with having, but if you have them in your possession and somebody that is a trained paramedic or somebody that's familiar with first aid or trauma care can utilize what you have and possibly save a life in serious situations. So let's get going on this. In the top is just some, got some Coban. This will come in handy if, for instance, this is a flexible splint. It's technically just a pliable thin sheet of metal, something like a thick aluminum that is pliable, and it's covered or sandwiched in between two foam pads, so you can roll this out and say for a fractured arm or some other part of the body, this, and you wrap it, you got a splint that's handy. You got a bivvy, you know, if it happens to be in a time when the weather is inclement and it's the patient has got the potential of going into shock and you want to keep body heat in, a bivvy is going to be something that you're going to want to have if it's going to be an extended period of time. If the patient is injured to the extent where you can't get the bivvy on them, let's say a deep wound on the thigh, or you've got a fractured leg or something like that, then at least you're going to want a survival blanket where you can just throw it over the patient and not have them try to climb into a bivvy. And that would also provide maintenance of body temperature. Well, we have your, like I said before, an obligatory survival, I call them knickknacks. You've got water purification, fishing kit, signaling mirror, fire starting. I've upgraded the fire starting with the powdered magnesium tinder wicks that I've showed you in the past. Lights a really fast and high intensity fire. It's got one of those cheap ass compasses, which I hate because these are more dangerous than anything because they're so inaccurate. So I went ahead and, instead of having to rely on these little compasses, I added a Sunto 2G compass, and you can look these up. You know, you've got the ability to set azimuth, sighting mirror, and a number of functions that aren't available to you even on something that wants to look like one of the big boy compasses. I'm not saying that's a big boy, that's actually a middle of the road compass. It's somewhere around $45. you can go all the way up in the $100 range for, you know, the big boy compasses, I call them. But this too is basically junk. The needle doesn't float freely. Now we start getting into some of the more trauma-oriented. We've got some combat gauze. This is a gauze that's impregnated with a clotting agent or hemostatic agent. I don't know if I'm getting that on camera. This is the Z-fold bandage that you would pack a deep wound with that's bleeding profusely, and it will help clot that blood. Also, for traumas, we've got the vented chest seals. This comes as a 2-pack for entry and exit wound for sucking chest wounds. Basically, you'll want, definitely in a through and through type of injury, you'll want a chest seal if it's a thoracic wound. Along those lines, we've got the Mojo dart. This is basically a large needle, and it is used to relieve tension pneumothorax in a case where a sucking chest wound has built up a pressure in the thoracic cavity and is not capable of venting and is going to provide a serious danger to the patient with regard to being able to breathe, and respiration could, along with other issues regarding with respect to blood pressure, would tend to deteriorate if that pressure in the thoracic cavity isn't reduced. Also, we've got nasal tube for helping with respiration. Again, with CPR, we've got a mask so that you can do CPR safely and not have to worry about somebody throwing up in your mouth or something like that. We've got obviously some packing gauze or gauze sponges. We've got a TK4 tourniquet. I've got a Cat 4 on order. It isn't here yet. In the meantime, I've got this TK4. This is a nice tourniquet. It can be self-administered if necessary, easily. So also something that you'll want to keep. We have some odds and ends. Got some pain relievers, antihistamines, and whatnot. Got the all of the first aid, more gauze, bandages. Got some non-latex gloves. Little boo-boo package in here with the smaller bandages, some shears, more Coban. I'm sorry, this thing's not on camera. The sealed pack of, like I said, gauze sponges, gauze pads, bandages, and gloves, scissors that you would use during a trauma situation. We've got the Israeli bandage, which is a compression bandage. So again, you would use this, say you've got a deep wound, you would apply pressure with something like one of these gauze sponges, and then use the Israeli bandage to keep continual pressure on that wound to help control the bleeding. We've got along the survival branch, we've got water purification and gathering. This is a plastic water gathering bottle for the Sawyer water filter. This is the straw for it, and basically I'll turn this around real quick. We've got up in the lid here, I've got the Sawyer filter. These are excellent. They'll filter down to 0.1 micron, so no bacteria is getting in the past the straw. The only thing it won't get is viruses, but here in the United States we don't have to worry about that in standing water, so that'd be perfect. What else I have in here? In case you really want a flashlight, you can have a flashlight. Blast match. This is another fire starting tool that you can use to get a fire going. This is wet fire. It's basically a block of wax that will start to burn very easily and get a good fire going. Along with that, I got another Tesla lighter, and again, I think I got that in here. Yeah, here it is. This is the charging cable for this lighter, and should you need to charge it, there's the I don't know if you can see it on camera, there's the US port that I added that you plug this into, and let's see if I can get this to zoom in a little bit without killing everybody here. This is the USB port right here, and when the power is on, it lights up blue also, so you can see that you're getting power to that port, and it will charge up anything that you're going to use a USB port on. Also, we have food and water in here, basically food and water. I've got one of the Dietrich's food packs in here. Forget how many calories are in this, but it's at least 3 or 4 days worth of food. And I've got 8 ounces of water times 3. 1, 2, and 3. So you get 24 ounces of fresh water, which will give you time to go out and hunt down with your Sawyer and water gathering bag to get more water. Now, what other advantage might you use with this? Let's say you don't want to use the big light, but you'd like some form of light. If you happen to carry along one of these, this one is made by Gold Zero, and I'm not a big fan of Gold Zero because all of their connections are proprietary, and you have to make some changes if you want to use it with equipment that is not proprietary. You just plug it into the port, and you have a light. Now, let's say this cord is about 10 feet, and in the daytime this doesn't look very bright, but it's pretty doggone bright. It'll light up this garage if it was dark. But let's say you need a little more light. One thing I do like about this system with Gold Zero is you can chain it, and now you have 2 lights. And I've got more in my back room, and you can chain as many as you want within reason. I mean, they get to be a hassle. As you can see, the cords are, you can wrap them up, but if they unravel, then they're a pain in the butt. Another thing you can do with this is, if you have an inverter and you want some AC power, and you've got an AC inverter. Now that would come in handy. Let's say if I can find one real quick. Let's say that you're in an area where you didn't bring any of the DC lights, but you have just like a regular light hanging out, and you've got your inverter handy. You can turn it on, and you've got a see. So you've got access to both AC and DC power with the use of this system. Now, obviously, with an inverter this size, which is easily packed, you're not going to be able to run a hairdryer, so the women are just going to be pissed off about that. But you know what? You got to suck it up when you're trying to survive. So basically, yeah, this is big for a survival kit. It's big for an Ifak kit. It's big for a solar generator, but for a combination of all three, it is not too doggone big. The entire thing with everything packed in, including the food and water and all of the supplies, comes in about 11.5 pounds. And that sounds heavy, but you're also talking about a battery bank in there that if it was a lead acid battery, it would be a minimum of twice that, with not nearly the durability of charge cycles and availability of having something that's not heavy and is easily transported, and it will last you many years. It's not as susceptible to temperature extremes as say some of the lead acid batteries are. And you know, again, 11.5 pounds when you got a sturdy handle to carry it with, and it's basically going to be riding inside a vehicle I mean, you can carry it once you're at your site and keep it in a tent or something like that. But you know, like here's my AR-15 that I built last year, and I went specifically with the intent of building the lightest format or foundation platform that I could put together. And when everything was said and done, this thing still is 8.5 pounds. Well, that's 3.5 pounds lighter, but it serves like one, maybe two purposes. That is multifunctional, and I guarantee you, you will be on the top of the world if you were able to use that and save somebody's life. I mean, what could be better than that? I can't think of anything. So that's why, you know, I just finished it, and I know this is long, but hey, there's a lot here. I don't know. There's just one more thing. I'll just show you there's, you know, the battery bank and the electronics that gave me all the fits earlier. So I think I'll let you guys go. I gotta plan what the heck I'm gonna do for the rest of the evening. Ever since I gave up drinking, I got a lot of extra time on my hands. Anyway, you all have a wonderful evening. The weekend's coming up. Have fun, be safe. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. Anyway, it's going to be a good weekend. Everybody have fun, be safe. This is Desert Gold out.